Hello to my wonderful colleagues at CSM. This is a short video to help you with assessment planning because it's still a pretty new process. So this is framed around some FAQs that I've been getting. The first one is a lot of people have asked me if each person is supposed to submit an assessment plan or if it's each course submitting one. In fact, assessment planning is tied to program review. That is to say, if your discipline or service area submits a program review, then it should submit an assessment plan. And that means that for most instructional departments, you just have one. If you have a learning center, then you just have one for your learning center. You're welcome to do more. Sometimes one department has, a big department like ours, English, might have 2 or 3 things you want to find out this semester. Perhaps you've got one ongoing assessment plan, but there's a quick thing you'd like to find out as well. So there's no reason why you can't do 2. Or some disciplines, I know different courses have different faculty who sort of manage that course and look after it. And if you like that and you want to keep doing that, there's no reason why you can't. But the requirement is 1 per discipline, service area, or learning center. So this is another big question I'm asked. What data do I want you to collect? That is a question that comes to us really from our old model, where people had to collect data and then they were supposed to see something in that data. And I've been over this in other workshops, which you can look at on our website. That wasn't a very helpful model for us for a whole lot of reasons. So we have moved now to an inquiry-driven model. The goal, remember, of assessment is to review and improve the state of student learning in your discipline or service area. Now, also, we do it on a college level, but that's not something that disciplines and services have to be responsible for on their own. That's something we organize from the top down. But as far as you're concerned in your area, the reason you're doing this is to kind of find out where student learning could be improved, if there's an area where it's getting better or worse, if there's something new that you want to check out to see if it's working, or if there's something that you don't know about. You don't know about student learning in some aspect of your program or service. So that's the point of assessment. So the real issue is not what data do I want you to collect. I don't care. The question is, what do you want to find out? It's inquiry-driven. So the data you collect is going to be determined by the question you've got. Here are some examples. I've shared these in other presentations of questions that people came up with, assessment inquiries. ESL faculty typically like to make sure that the students are meeting particular skills, writing, speaking, and reading. So they'll usually break out one of the skill areas for the different courses and they'll focus on that. Other programs look more at the employability or the strengths or weaknesses of the program overall for graduates. Some questions are kind of interdisciplinary, like what study methods are students using, and so on. In English, we're doing a program on grading papers. So there's all kinds of different inquiries you could have. We will actually be developing over the course of this semester some more targeted workshops on how to frame a really good assessment question. This is something we're kind of learning as we go, so bear with us. But I think all of us can probably think of something we'd like to find out that we can focus on. As for the methods, what methods do you use to gather the data? Well, as instructional faculty, and again, this isn't new, we typically will use the work that we give students in the classes, depending on what we want to find out. For instance, the ESL faculty, as I say, who try to make sure that the students are getting the learning outcomes they need in one of the skill areas, will create an assignment that gauges that skill. They will grade it with a rubric. They get together and discuss the results. So you can often use student work. If you are trying to find out whether or not, say, students taking your program got the jobs the program was intended to prepare them for, as with this one, the Pilates certificate, That's meant to help people get a job teaching Pilates. So if you want to find that out, you're probably not going to look at student work because, that's not where the question lies. In this case, the dance faculty did an outreach through Facebook. And again, we're going to have more support about different methods you can use. We're going to see what college resources we can rope in to help faculty do things like reach out to alumni. But that in terms of like just off the top of your head, things you might do, that is something you might do. They succeeded in finding graduates and found out some things which helped them improve their program. Sometimes it might be a teaching method that you want to see. Is it as effective as it could be? Is there a less time-consuming way to be as effective? It's a teaching question, but that's about teaching and learning. That's about assessment and improving student learning. So you might, for instance, do, as in this case of the English faculty, we're going to adopt different methods of paper response. And then when we go to look and see how the experiment went, we'll probably include student work in the class, but probably also a quick survey for students to ask them how much mileage they got out of this particular response to their papers. So again, the method you use to get your data depends on what you're trying to find out. This is an invented program. We do not have a degree in viniculture, if only. But you might have a fairly generic question. This is what the SLOs tended to in the former routine, and it's perfectly okay if this helps you for you to do this. You may have a program intended to teach students key skills to become successful winemakers. And maybe what you want to do is find out whether they really are leaving with those skills. And there you would use some time-honored method like create a rubric for the capstone assignment in the key course, the one where most of the skills should be represented, and make sure that that assignment and the rubric aligns with the key skills students are supposed to know. And that way, grading the assignment will also give you a breakdown of the student skills. Now, that's for a program where there is a sequence of courses. In other programs, there are not, and we have to get more creative. But these are just some of the ideas. I think creativity in gauging how we find out about student learning is part of what we're trying to encourage. We don't just want to do surveys or crunch data that isn't really real. We want to think of really creative ways that might give us an insight into what students are taking away. So how do you decide what your assessment plan is going to be? Well, the goal of this new process, along with being meaningful, is also to make more use of each other, to promote a community of practice, promote collaboration. So if you are in a multi-person department, this is something to talk about in the first month or two of the fall. What do we want to do this year? What have we noticed in the classroom? Where do we think students need most work? Are we seeing a trend that bothers us? Just having that conversation is really valuable, and the point of this process is to make room for that conversation and to minute it, if you like, in the form of an assessment plan. If you're, of course, a one-person department, a lot of you are, then maybe you might have your own plan, something you know you want to look at, but you might team up with someone, friend from another discipline, related discipline or service to find something out. You might join an interdisciplinary learning outcomes effort. We usually have a workshop in August looking at institutional learning outcomes. And that one also has usually a follow-up which everybody is invited to participate in. So you would be welcome to do that. So all this talk of assessment plans, what is it? What is an assessment plan? It is a simple form. Again, you can use TrackDat, and we have used TrackDat, but most of us, that is, I believe, everybody that I spoke to, found TrackDat difficult to use and sort of awkwardly arranged. It kind of was data forward, and whole purpose of doing this very much in the background. So we're substituting it instead with something a bit more narrative, more chronological, a simple form for each discipline, service, learning center, easy to refer to if there's faculty turnover and someone steps in spring and you think, what have we been doing in this department? You can just go to this folder and there are forms and they're easy to understand. You submit it every fall, and you'll notice there's a spring update. So in spring, you just add, it's a Word document, you add a few lines saying what the result was. Where does it go? Well, sorry, you can get the blank form at the College Assessment Committee website at the resources page. And where does it go? It goes to SharePoint. So let me open my SharePoint here. Here we are. Hideous page. I will improve it. But at least you can see there are folders for assessment plans in each of the 3 areas. And if you open the folders, every discipline has got a folder. So you simply put your assessment plan in the appropriate folder, and you can also upload other documents if there's rubrics you want to include or survey results, anything like that. It can just go in the folder. These folders are accessible to anybody with a an smccd.edu email. So it's really, even though it's ugly in SharePoint, it is pretty easy to, to get into and out of. You don't have to remember a new login or anything for TrackDat. Okay, where can you get help? Well, there's always me, obvious. Please feel free to email me if you are thinking, I don't know if this is an assessment plan, or I have no idea what to do, or I don't know about methods. Please email me. Also, we're working a lot more closely with PRE, with the proviso that PRE still, again, we're developing this as we go. They don't have the kind of resources that we would love them to have. Hundreds of analysts devoted to our research needs. But they do have analyst time by appointment to help you with surveys, for instance, to make sure your surveys are meaningful if you want to do a survey. Hee-Ju Jang, she will help with those. So again, by appointment. I think they're also planning some supporting work around how to do a focus group or how to write a good survey, how to frame a good research question. These are all things we're developing depending on need and interest. There's also on our resources page of the College Assessment Committee website just a ton of videos like this one will be there, and a bunch of other ones, often covering kind of the same ground but from different angles. And then PRE has a much more developed research area. It's really developing one. They've got a research request process now. If you actually want them to do some research for you, you can submit that through the dean, and they will, get to crunching your numbers. And yeah, so there, as I say, don't hesitate to reach out to these different groups if you're not sure if you have the right kind of question, or if you aren't sure how to tackle it, or if you just want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And just as a reminder, what happens to these assessment plans? They don't any longer form part of a kind of a database designed to generate an Insta report, because again, that was not a very helpful thing. They're designed for ease of reference for you, but they are also accessible to the College Assessment Committee, who looks through them. We wrote a report last May, and it included a summary of some of the assessment activities that were going on at the department level in the assessment plans that were submitted for last year. And we'll do that again this year. It also gets read in program review. You summarize your assessment work. And remember that now that program review is going to be read by the Academic Senate and by the Committee on Teaching and Learning, which is the Assessment Committee, the Academic Excellence Committee, and the Library Advisory Committee. And the goal there is that we want these reports to inform communication about things people are doing on campus, to help us see who needs support in what area. In that analysis, by the way, the equity officer and the distance ed coordinator will both be involved, because maybe there's somebody's doing something very successful with equity in one department, maybe somebody needs help in another. So we're really trying to make this a forum for sharing what we know, sharing what we're doing, and moving forward, and really having a community of practice based around active research with our own students right here at CSM. Any more questions? Email me. You know where I am. Good luck. And remember, October 31st is the deadline for this year's assessment plans. Thanks very much.